I bet a nigga on the ass like a mango. Then he used to drip from my stash like a mango. Been putting money over ass, that's a mango. And if you ain't crying when you stand, that's a mango. I've been feeling the hip hop like an Adidas flip with the gango. Sitting back, feeling the room by playing tango. Fuck it, I'm switching the vibes. I recognize that it takes two to tango. They wondering how many flows that I have in my answer's just tango. I got a monster inside. You better move when the monster arrive. Don't really matter if it's wrong or it's right. Just time and consume what the monster can find. Conquer the vibe, stomp your pride. Call your mom to the fire. Don't ever say that I was wrong for the side, coming along for the ride. Just understand only strong will survive. But anyway, they shot a 4 minute. Yeah, I made it. If I said it, then I made it. Or a breath like and I keep it fresh. From the Kubi to the tennis, stretch Gucci like she Luffy till she moves. Looking goofy and pretending like me down like a Boosie. Trying to rap, but when I finish it, down and fuck around and get it right. I think I kill it, never clown. Yeah, I been it. You don't wanna eat my kids around the town and give them sex and around. If you can be mother my bitch, then you can have it. And I don't make it easy for these niggas when I pass. But if you miss the chance to shoot your shot, then I'ma snatch it back and tax the average jumping blues and blues like she's acrobat. Cause I don't play a loop, I got some crazy chat. Shit that baby that who will praises and affirmations that the baby tasking. Wait for that cash app that you sell when you're chasing after. It's best to stay in your place before you're I wrote the premise of a body that gave me consequence anatomy. I gotta say imagine. I used to do a public speaker, so I hit a fallacy. I'm antisocial with the tendencies I have innately. And Madam Anger ain't the only way to slap with me. I do it clapping. She takes it happily. Cause it's a classic, it's where my passion be. I was a kid that used to fight a lot. The others laughing me, but what the hell is all the naturally? They never want to smell like butter, especially see the dog in me feeling foggy. Then I'm headed, pick your vision, blood on fits with the fire. I see that many matches, 3 I kept my own, but she has many more where my matches be. See, I've never been a sheep in a herd. As a young boy, y'all was for the easy to nerve with that desire to dominate the decision. Just don't if you was fucking with my niggas, you was seeing me first. That's mango right there.
Let's talk about dominant versus submissive shadow work. I think this is a very important concept to understand, right? And this is how I break down the two different ideologies that I both see as viable and as ways that a relationship can work, right? It's two different paths. The first important thing to understand is, what is your core polarity, right? Is your core polarity masculine, feminine, dominant, or submissive? And are you a man or a woman, right? Your core polarity is that one space that you lean the closest towards when it comes to the sexual polarity quadrant. Because this is going to determine your path of growth, right? About where you want to go. And understand that sexual polarity, true sexual polarity, which is what I deem to be masculine dominant with feminine submissive, is just polarity. The end goal of the sexual polarity quadrant is really integration. But my issue with people in society right now is that people try to push off being a middle cup space individual. People try to push off being an individual who is socially programmed, right? The masculine submissive exercise and self-control, which is the baseline polarity for most people, the middle cup space. They try to push this off as if it is being integrated, because you may have a way of using therapy speak, or you may have a way of communicating and compromising. And because you view this as quote unquote healthy, it's not truly healthy. To me, if you haven't fully walked into polarity, then chances are you're being nice, right? You're setting yourself up for failure, because if you haven't truly walked into polarity, In my opinion, you're prematurely integrated. And this will eventually show itself, right? It will eventually show itself. So, when we're talking about dominant versus submissive shadow work, this is a process of aligning your core polarity with what goes along with it so that you can be in a high cup space yourself. Now, there's different steps along this process. It can be difficult, right? It can be difficult. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Oftentimes, it's going to be very difficult to go through this process with a person that you're already with. Very difficult. Why? Because if you're in a prematurely integrated relationship, it's going to take a lot of care and consideration to get to a point where you're able to do this. So, what is the shadow work for being a dominant? What are the things that you need to work on? What are the things that you need to develop in order to become a masculine dominant individual? One is you got to get rid of covert contracts, right? To be masculine dominant means that you view yourself as intrinsically desirable in the area of your dominant ego, right? So understand that a woman's dominant ego is the non-sexual. A man's dominant ego is the sexual, right? And we also have to understand the peach versus the mango. The mango represents androcentric psychology, where having a clear conscious understanding of hierarchy, as well as having a clear understanding of dom-sub dynamics, having that as a priority in your relationship structure and dynamic, all of these things are important when it comes to these perspectives, right? All of these things are important when it comes to these perspectives. So the gynocentric psychology, this is like gynocracy, right? This is where the idea of expressing your emotional stances and wanting to feel safe and validated in your emotions, having friendship and emotional bond and connection, this being the foundation of a relationship. This is what represents the peach. This is what represents what it means to have a gynocentric relationship. Now, is this impossible for a man and for a woman to have a relationship that works this way? No, but understand this: unless that woman is truly masculine dominant and she's done her shadow work to be masculine dominant, meaning to learn to like who likes her, right? To practice the level of asceticism, to reach a place where she's not chasing a challenge, not seeking to be feminine, not seeking to be submissive, unless she's with somebody who is already meeting the standards that she has. Unless this is what's going on and she's rewarding good behavior and she knows how to transmute energy and to truly be attracted sexually to a man who values her intrinsically on a non-sexual level, right? Unless the woman knows how to do that, and it's not gonna work. Let's keep it a buck. I'm gonna tell you why, right? Because this is what can occur. For a woman who's attempting to go the peach path, we have to understand that there are two levels of this. Or there's low level polarity and there's high level polarity. And what do I mean by that? It's really about the different energies that are involved. So a low level polarity could be a woman who simply waits for marriage, and could be a woman who has very limited sexual experience to no sexual experience, or is a woman who has not been exposed to the peaks of what sex can be. Because the highest peak of pleasure and the highest peak of that emotional charge is typically going to take place through being submissive. So that asceticism that you practice is to avoid being overstimulated. Because once you become overstimulated, it's going to be difficult, if not damn near impossible, for you to go back. And oftentimes the things that happen while you're becoming overstimulated are going to make it difficult for an individual who is submissive to truly trust you and to trust your stance about you being dominant, about you being masculine dominant. So what can this look like when I talk about overstimulation? Could be fucking with a guy like me. Because if you agree to a monogamous version of this, where your past or the principles that you stand on as a woman aren't something that have been consistent, or they're not consistent, or you've been dominated, or you're accustomed to being submissive, chances are you won't be able to go back. Chances are you won't want to go back. And if you hurt a submissive in that way, like a man trying to go the peach path, chances are that shit is going to be sabotaged. And once you tap into your feminine nature as a woman, if he becomes emotionally reactive, if he gets hurt by your actions of you going out there and wanting to test out your value with dominant men, you're going to disrespect the investment of that submissive man. And by disrespecting the investment of that submissive man, unless you're willing to do the work to get towards an integrated place, to truly get towards masculine dominance, you're not going to be respected. Right? See, what is the difference between like a woman who's a fodder, a slut in my eyes, versus a promiscuous woman? And I like promiscuous women. I like women who have a certain openness and flair about their sexuality. The difference is past theory, right? That's what the difference is. It's past theory. If you are an individual who sells yourself as if you're not a certain type of way, and you haven't done that shadow work about that aspect of who you are as a person, and you sell yourself as if you're not like this, if you break this for another individual, that person's not going to trust or respect you. Think about Chase and Amy. Now, if you are a woman who's promiscuous or has a past to being promiscuous, you know how to teach what you like, as in you've done the work to know how to satisfy yourself. You have the competency to attract a man that you're actually sexually attracted to be feminine submissive with you, right? Or you're getting a man who's on a high level of feminine submissive to where he truly values that non-sexual connection over anything else, in a way to where he is cool being cuckolded, right? He's the integrated masculine or high level feminine submissive man, to where he can feel safe in knowing that friendship and that love and that connection is more important to him than anything else when it comes to you. Therefore, what you do with your body doesn't mean that much to him. From that stance of a situation, that's where you can have a past, right? That's where you can have a present. This is typically for women who are older, who might meet a man who's older. This is when you're getting close to the integrated level. You know, a man who is a cuckold is not a man that I disrespect or I see as not worthy of respect. It's just not for me, right? But because there's cucks and there's stags. I'm going to put that out there too. There's cucks and there's stags. You can be a stag without being a cuck and be cool with your woman fucking other man, right? Or even get turned on by the idea of reclaiming that woman. But good luck with finding a man who's going to be cool with getting the short end of the stick sexually. And even better luck with you actually being able to respect that man, right? This is the socio-sexual dynamics of it. You may not be able to respect that man. You genuinely may be unable to. And because you may be unable to, you may find yourself in a position where, because you're unable to respect such a man, he may just be resigned into the trick or the beta male orbiter or the friend category, right? For a relationship to work, there has to be a combination of androcentric safety, which is the mango, and peach safety, which is gynocentrism, right? As emotional safety. Something else to understand is that if you create that level of safety for a man as a masculine dominant woman, chances are that man's either going to be a cuckold or he's going to be bisexual. He's probably want to get pegged. If you can't respect the man that you peg, it's probably not going to work for you. Because understand that with high levels of feminine submissive energy, typically comes either a cuckold or a cut queen kink, right? A degradation kink, as well as orgasms from penetration, man or woman. So if you can't respect that, then you're really operating out of a gentleman gigolo complex. The reason you do dominant versus submissive shadow work is to integrate the Madonna and the whore, the gentleman and the gigolo, to find that in a person. Right? That's what it's about. So either find one through the other or one through the other. And this is what polarity is about, is choosing which stance that you're going to move from. So let's talk about dominant shadow work for a man. You got to learn to like who likes you. You have to practice some asceticism as far as emotional asceticism, which means emotional discipline, right? You have to learn to operate out of emotional discipline more than just emotional unavailability. Because if it's only emotional unavailability, you may have low-level polarity with a woman, right? But this low-level polarity is not going to allow for the opportunity for integration. And if you repress your emotions for too long, or you take this mango path, if you judge women for their body counts and their sexual experiences too much, you're going to be unable to fully create safety to accept a woman in the truth of who she is in her nature. Right? So let's say you choose to go the path of the mango. Biology first approach. Transitional dating through the biology first approach. You want the woman who has the highest level of desire towards you. You have to like who likes you. You don't have to be with anybody, but if you're going to, you pick out of the women who show the highest level of receptiveness to you based off of your standard of what that needs to look like. So if you are a guy who's transitioning through the biology first approach, you might be a guy who says, well, I like women who are sexually receptive on link 1. You really think a woman who's doing that isn't that for you, and hasn't done this for others or wouldn't do this for others? This is where you create androcentric safety, right? By you receiving a high level of sexual validation and receptiveness and access to a woman, which is part of the androcentric psychology, and by you receiving a lot of psychological receptance from a woman, what this does is it allows you to factor these degrading aspects of how a woman could present herself, how much she can be influenced, right? How freaky she could really be, how much she could be willing to degrade herself to show you how much she wants you. And then you have to learn how to appreciate and accept this, right? Once you learn how to appreciate and accept this in a woman, and you factor this into your overall view of women, you no longer view with women at all who do not have a certain level of receptiveness towards you. And then you're going to be exposed to a different variety of women. Now, a lot of the women who you would meet who appear to be otherwise, this is where you come to this conclusion, right? You have to decide for yourself what you want. This is the masculine security of it, right? You know, masculine dominance is about a mixture of masculine security and dominant empathy, right? Masculine security and dominant empathy. And by you doing this, you put yourself into a position where this is where you get to masculine dominance. So what does that mean? What does this mean? What this means is this, right? When you are an individual who has dominant empathy, because you're practicing asceticism in the area of your submissive empathy, or in the area of your submissive ego, you still crave that experience. So you live vicariously through the submissive experience of the submissive. How much this submissiveness is lubricated with feminine energy to allow itself to be stretched by you. This is what you live vicariously through, right? You get to feel how much someone desires you. And this is where masculine security is so important, because you have to have the security to only deal with someone who has this level of desire and interest and receptiveness to you. Submissive empathy is the inverse, where because you're not in a position of power and control in this relationship dynamic, right, as the leader of it, as the one in control of it, you take attraction from how much you're willing to allow yourself to be stretched by this individual. And you take pride in that, and you put your partner almost on like a pedestal. You kind of idealize them in a way where this is how you view them. So rather than feeling insecure because it seems like you like them more, you accept that you like them more, and this makes you more attracted to them. Feminine security is about accepting that you like someone more and being willing to be malleable and adaptable to the way that they want to interact. See, masculine security is about putting the principle over the person, putting the function, right? Putting the structure over the particular person that you're having a dynamic with. Feminine security is about being malleable and adaptable and fluid to how this person wants to interact, so that you have the opportunity to experience them. This is feminine energy. This is what it is. So at the end of the day, what you got to understand is this. The alignment of masculine security with dominant empathy, and the alignment of feminine security with submissive empathy, is what creates that state of polarity. Now, is it possible for an individual to go up into feminine submissiveness from a masculine submissive exercise of self-control? Yes, it is possible, but the game is going to have to be played. You got to win the game to change the rules. But understand, most women you come across as a masculine dominant are going to be women who have experienced it on some level already, which means that they may be promiscuous women. Right? A woman who quote unquote knows her worth and is not trying to fuck nobody, yada yada yada, and views sex as a gift that she gives to a man who loves her and cares about her, that's masculine security. That's a masculine woman. Right? If she's not experiencing and acting on her intrinsic sexual desires, right, and allowing this to morph and to transform into an emotional connection over time, and being psychologically receptive and available to this man, chances are that's not really a feminine submissive woman. Chances are that's a masculine woman. Right? You got to understand that stereotypical gender roles are not sexual polarity. What people typically view as feminine is for a woman to want a man to chase her and to not take the lead. Listen, it's feminine to pursue. It's feminine to chase. That's why it turns women off. Right? Let's keep it above. Because although the sexual polarity quadrant is not gendered, genders are going to lean towards certain things. Like most men are either going to be masculine or dominant. Most women are either going to be feminine or submissive in their core polarity. See, the old school traditional model of dating and relationships was pretty much patriarchal gynocracy. Think about it. That traditional view is you take time, you get to know one another, you establish a relationship, and then you get into a sexual relationship. People act like, why is chivalry dead? And that style of dating, like courting a woman, I think a woman only has but so many opportunities to really be courted in her life. Because once you've tapped into the feminine submissiveness of being sexually available, this changes the narrative of you being courted into you cucking a man, into you taking advantage of a man who you're not that interested in by just taking what he's willing to offer you and trying to reward him with some Scooby snack pussy. See, the thing to understand about a masculine dominant woman is that unless she knows how to compartmentalize her submissive sexual ego, unless she knows how to attract a man who she's highly sexually attracted to and to have true sexual discipline with someone who she is sexually attracted to, you got to understand this. Not always, but it's typically going to be a different type of sexual relationship. When it's going to be based on the safety and the intimacy of that connection, emotionally connecting through sex, rather than the raw, primal, passionate, hedonistic type of sex that you're going to have in the mango. A big part of this is time, right? Another thing to understand about the mango. When it comes to the mango, it's oftentimes going to be sort of like, maybe it's not the right word for it, but the love that you may have for a woman may be more so like pimp hoe love. And the peach may be more like husband-wife love. Or love between two friends. That familial type of connection over time typically is not going to create that same level of hedonistic passion, even if the sex life is good. And this is going to be the fucked up part about the peach. A woman can enjoy sex with you. A woman can love you. But that love from a masculine stance from a woman is maternal familial love. She may even try to tell you, she may have an affair on you, cheat on you, because she gets caught up in the whirlwind of this masculine dominant man, or just this maybe masculine submissive exercise and self-control man who understands dominant empathy. Understand there's both passive and active dominant empathy. Active dominant empathy is like degradation. This is like throat training. This is like choking a woman. This is like knowing how to be aggressive in a way that can appear to the outside world to be borderline abusive in a way that turns her on. It's like when you tell her to shut the fuck up and take this dick. Right? Another thing, this way of doing things can also put you in a position where to the outside world, people will accuse you of shit. Right? I've been accused of being a pimp. I've been accused of being abusive. I've been accused of being a cult leader. I've been accused of a lot of shit. None of it true. In my album, Young Niggas to Tell a Sexual Shadow Work, where I'm covering the peach and the mango and I'm talking about these different things through real life experiences, I'm really breaking down, like, leaning into what people say about me. Like my song Adi Dottie, I'm using pimp vernacular, like in a blaxploitation manner to express being a daddy dom. Right? I've been accused of being a sex addict. You know, might be that a little bit, but that's what you will appear to be to the outside world, the gynocentric world, because understand modern psychology is gynocentric. It is. This is why they view, like, I've also been accused of being a narcissist and a sociopath. I lean into that shit. Fuck it. Right? This is why in modern psychology, the conversation surrounding mental health is typically to view all relationship dynamics that don't appear to be equal on the surface or an expression as toxic or unhealthy, unless the foundation is the gynocentric. This is why I call it gynocentric BDSM. Most people's perspective of BDSM is really one in which the woman is in control, right? You're not really in control. This is role play. The friendship and the love and the connection is the real relationship. And this other shit is just role play. You're just playing a game. This is play. I don't believe in that shit. I would keep it a buck with you. I don't. See, you gotta understand this. When it comes to androcentric relationships, there's a clear-cut understanding of the roles that you're playing, the role that you're in. And because there's this clear-cut understanding of the type of role that you're in this relationship dynamic, what you have to understand is that this is what the gynocracy hates, right? Like if you ever go onto Reddit and you see their views of BDSM, you see their views of non-monogamy, a situation in which a man is dominant and he's non-monogamous and he has partners that are only sleeping with him, they automatically trip up red flags, especially if you're unicorn hunters. Oh, they hate that shit. But women who I know who are highly submissive, they typically fuck with those type of scenarios. I've been in several monopoly relationships that weren't by force. Also, man, I check women. I'm not asking permission to check a woman. I'm not looking for society's approval about how I talk to my bitch. No, I'm not. It's androcentric. The foundation isn't me trying to make the woman feel emotionally safe. If she's attracted enough to you and she respects you as a man, she's naturally going to feel emotionally safe. What goes on oftentimes is that people want to push the narrative that is different than that, because most relationships would not exist today if the man really came from that stretching perspective. See, when you're masculine dominant and you do that shadow work, you learn to provide safety as a reward for submissiveness. As the woman's submissive, as the woman's receptive, as the woman shows you what she needs to show you, then you reward that good behavior by providing a safe environment for her. Also, with this androcentric perspective, one of the reasons why you're able to provide safety of not judging a woman for her actions and behaviors and for different things is because you see her shadow. You're living in the expression of enjoying the shadow side of herself. Typically, a woman's going to continue to grow sexually throughout her life. What does this mean when I say this? This means that if you're a dominant man that's coming into a woman's life, there's a good chance that you're going to be her best sexual partner at that time while she's stretched, while she's in limerence with you, while she's getting digmatized by you. See, the foundation of androcentrism is desire and respect. There's no substitute for good D and guidance. You have to learn to be intrinsically desirable in those areas and to not deal with women who don't have that type of energy for you, and to know that when it's not there, it's over with, right? Like, androcentrism is more so if you can make love, you can make up. You get to a higher level, ain't no more dick. You don't get your act together, I'm not even gonna give you that dick. That's just how it works sometimes, right? This can be viewed as controlling or abusive from a gynocentric lens. I don't subscribe to that theory. I don't subscribe to that way of looking at things, right? So let's talk about submissive shadow work. Well, I still got some time to talk about it. Submissive shadow work. So a big part of submissive shadow work is learning how to self-soothe. So understand there's three instinctual variants. There's social, sexual, self-preservation. Understand that when you are in a polarity-based relationship, especially when you're a dominant man with a submissive woman, you already understand that her nature is to test you. Now, when you're in a peach relationship, a gynocentric relationship, when she tests you, your goal is to give her emotional safety. Right? To create that win-win scenario. to give her the space that she needs, right? But ultimately, it's like you're trying to win her over emotionally so that she feels, quote unquote, safe enough to return to a sexual relationship with you. Androcentrism is different. It's different. Why? Because the woman's desire for you sexually will override her attitude. Y'all not hearing what I'm saying. Her desire for you sexually, will overpower her need for certain things. Her respect for you, her fear of you not being in her life anymore will overpower her social programming when the animus kicks in. It will overpower it. And once it's overpowered, then from her relenting, from her submitting, from her feeling your absence, from her being in a position where you put your foot down, rather than this feeling abusive, this causes her to become sexually aroused, right? It's like when you're in an androcentric relationship, people who are gynocentric will see this as abuse. If I say, bitch, sit down somewhere, right? To the gynocentric view, this looks like abuse. And I understand the difference. It's like there's this reaction that you have as a child where psychological reactors come up. This is the main thing about submissive shadow work, is learning to transmute energy and to overcome psychological reactants, because the cup is dynamic, it's not static. So that means that a woman's typically not going to be in high feminine submissiveness all the time. Something else to understand is this, that she has to learn to be self-contained in her capacity to return to a high cup space. Because your efforts to try and pour into her to make her feel safe may be from a space of her attempting to subconsciously manipulate you through her animus. Understand that. So if she's subconsciously attempting to manipulate you through her animus, what can occur? That as you compromise, as you relent, as you attempt to communicate when she's not being receptive, she may lose respect for you. Without the respect, there is no sexual attraction or sexual desire. Without the sexual attraction or sexual desire, then there is no influence. And without that influence, then the roles are flipped in this relationship dynamic to where the woman is no longer attracted to you. She no longer wants you. She no longer feels you. And this is when she will attempt to monkey branch. As long as that feeling is present, she's not going to. And this is where we have to understand that in order to do this, there's high level polarity and there's low level polarity, right? So high level polarity will look more like polyamorous or an open relationship. This can look like degradation and humiliation kink that goes along with this cuckoldry shit. So, or cuck queening. So in the high level, it's like as a man, you're a stag, and as a woman, you're a cuck queen. So some of these situations are going to be monopoly, but most situations aren't going to be monogamous for forever. Not in my opinion. Like most people are going to cheat. Most people are not going to be monogamous for a lifetime. I think that's an unrealistic expectation that many people have, and they get very disappointed in it. So really, whether you're a peach or a mango guy, there's going to be a time where there's probably going to be another man in your woman. So if you believe that you're not cool with that, then either don't get into a relationship or have a strict policy where if you find out, it's over with. Right? That's one way of looking at it. That's one way of dealing with it. Right? But the androcentric psychology is going to be more so along the lines of you've already experienced this woman at peaks of her sexuality, and you're secure with yourself because of your experiences that let you know and let you feel confirmed and affirmed that you're intrinsically you're intrinsically sexually desirable. And what this does is it creates an environment where you accept this woman and her nature based off of your experience in her nature, right? When you're gynocentric, you accept the woman in her nature because you believe her narrative about things that she says and then you dig deeper into it to understand beyond how she understands herself. And once you express that you understand her deeper than she understands herself, and then you also give her the safety and the freedom to make whatever decision she wants, understand that from that integrated masculine perspective, chances are there's not going to be another man who can come around and consistently create that level of safety. But safety is still what it boils down to. It's just about where that safety is prioritized. If you are a dominant man in this peach perspective, this mango perspective, then that safety is naturally going to come from the halo effect. As she puts you on this pedestal, she's naturally going to feel safe, and her submissive empathy is going to be attached to you based off of the fact that the way in which she interacts with you is a way where she wouldn't want most, if not anybody, to talk to her, handle her, or deal with her. As in, it would be stretching to the point if the average person tried to do her or treat her this way, she would view this as disrespect, and she might get a rise out of her. So what she desires from you and craves from you is that stretching experience of being able to feel as if she's getting to experience an aspect of herself that's within her shadow. And this also opens up the door for her to want to experience aspects of her inner child coming out. It's like reparenting in a way, right? It's like reparenting in a way. And it's a beautiful thing, really, where you could be a daddy dom, you could be a master, where you're a man who this woman truly desires to serve. Right? But understand that energy is dynamic, not static. That cup can get low. Part of the submissive shadow work is understanding what to do when the cup gets low, or having the self and situational awareness to understand. Also, to not sacrifice or jeopardize that safety. As in, if a woman is in that position where she's submissive, she has to know how not to put herself in a position where she's allowing herself to be influenced by anyone else but you over you. It's about respect, desire, and respect. If she doesn't know how to control what's influencing her, as far as what she's watching, what she's listening to, on her own, if she doesn't know how to do these things, then she's oftentimes going to put herself in a situation where when she starts getting influenced by social programming, when she starts getting influenced by different things, her family, whatever it is, if her cup gets low, the animus rises back up. So she has to know how to do two different things: to self-soothe, for one, and then not only to self-soothe, but also to, and which is going to be like exercise, sometimes reading, taking time to herself, so she gets to maintain that feeling of desiring you and missing you. So she may need her space sometimes. She's going to want to be up under your skin, but you have to have the discipline to be like, nah, you need some more space to miss me. You have to be able to catch when her desire is diminishing a little bit. Another thing is outsourcing, the attention whore game, right? Not all attention whores are bad people. A lot of times a woman is being an attention whore and attempting to use a man as an emotional safety net or an emotional pincushion, so that she can gain the energy and attention and the validation that she needs to refill her cup, so that she can maintain being as feminine submissive with her dominant as possible. Right? But a lot of people don't understand that. So she may need to put herself out there for validation. As long as it's in a way that's respectful to your relationship dynamic, it's not an issue. And she needs to almost be walking on eggshells about, okay, and that's a beginner level of it. On a higher level, she starts really buying into the program, and she's thinking, how can I do this in a way that shows honor to my daddy? How can I do this in a way that shows respect to my daddy? How can I do these things to make him look good, to make him feel respected? She'll make your lunch, write notes on it, right? She'll want to show you, listen, I want to taste your day. That woman might want to suck your dick fresh off of work. That woman may say, listen, I got these niggas in my phone. I'm telling them I'm about to go be with my daddy today. She'll let them know. Even if she's seeing other dudes, she'll let them know what time it is. This is androcentric psychology. This is the mango. This is a level of respect to where you wouldn't even care if she fucked with somebody else, because she's so submissive with you that you don't care what she do when you're not around. She might want to tell you what she got going on just so that you can be proud of her. She wants your praise. She wants your validation. It's the validational loop. It's hacked. It's tapped into. Right? See, this is a big aspect of submissive shadow work. So one is outsourcing. But I will say this is probably the last point I'm going to get to in this particular video, right? The last point that I'll get to is soft switching. Right? Because understand that no relationship is going to be in polarity 100% of the time. And if it is, you're going to burn out. So soft switching is where you take a dominant stance over your submissive ego to give validation or to receive pleasure, right? In a way where, or you take like a submissive stance over your dominant ego or a dominant stance over your submissive ego in a non-transactional way through the masculine submissive exercise and self-control. So if you're already in polarity, let's say you're a man, your cup is getting low or your woman's cup is getting low, and you're able to give her enough of a little validation or a pep like that will refill her cup a little bit. So like, let's say let's say she doesn't have enough energy for a full dom session, but knowing that she pleased you pours into her cup while still giving you the gratification. So by her giving you head and knowing that she satisfied you giving you head, boom, she feels better, right? Or let's say now she's turned on enough to really want to fuck. Or let's say you're having a conversation with her about something that you're really into, that you have a mutual enjoyment in, right? This is soft switching. By being able to soft switch, you're able to maintain different aspects of these dynamics. You know, from time to time, you got to make sure you're rewarding good behavior, but every once in a while, you take her out, you know, emotional validation, social validation, financial investment. You might do a mana principle on your own girl. You mostly want to maintain feedback loops, but this is still a positive thing. It's still a dope experience. So soft switching is important as well, right? But soft switching is earned, right? You don't just jump straight into soft switching with a woman unless that's somebody you're not planning on dealing with like that, right? Somebody you're not worried about the validation or loops with. That's the soft switching. So I really do like to break down these topics and these ideas because oftentimes they go missing, or people don't dive into them the way I do. I dive into the shit. I go deep with it. Like that soft switching is part of this process. Now, understand that anytime you give to a woman in a way that feels transactional, unless she's earned what you're giving her already, she's typically going to lose respect for you, or it's going to feel like pressure, and that's going to create issues. So you have to know yourself. What level of energy do you have? Right? What level of energy do you have? If what you would have to give a woman to make her feel safe is going to put you out of a high cup space and into a low cup space, then if her cup gets high, she's going to feel as if she deserves better than you. She's going to say, I didn't ask for all that. Right? Or she's going to be like, you could have said no. And you could have. And you should have. So you only soft switch, and there's more examples of it, but I got to go. But you only soft switch in a way where you're able to, you only soft switch in a way where you're able to do this without lowering your cup space. So if your cup is not high enough for that, then soft switching really isn't for you right now. That means you have to fall back and let the woman rebuild her energy for you on her own time. So most of the time it's going to be social or self-preservation. So this is Coach Brody. I'm out.